All right, so it is February 11th, 2019, so welcome to the Policy Committee meeting. We have everybody here today. We have minutes back from January 14th. If there's any changes, let Brooke know, otherwise we'll put those forward at the next legislative meeting. Any announcements, communications today? Nope, okay, great. So we can go right into the agenda then. We have a number of second reading policies that we have along with some administrative regulations. So we can start from the top. That being 314, medical examinations. Anybody have any changes to that? Okay.
You gotta look and see that, be nuts. No nuts.
All right.
I give it a lot of time, but it's just
Okay.
getting rid of a word at the end of guidelines. We never say or their destiny, we just simply say or destiny. Can't get rid of
No.
there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or deadly.
I'm good otherwise.
You think it can be done?
I think that was great.
Okay. Anything else? Great. We'll move forward with 314 then for second reading. 331.
I'm comfortable with the language.
I didn't see it. Robert, I'm sure Robert has.
No, I didn't actually. Because I didn't think of all of it.
Mark, do you have anything?
Nope.
Oh, wow.
Why?
All right. No, we do have the AR with it, so that was the policy to the second reading. We did, I know. We did discuss the AR at the last policy committee meeting. We gave it the okay, but we knew we'd see it again. So upon
Hold on.
another review of the AR, how are we?
Let me see. Wait, I have
You do? Okay.
let's see. Nine. Sorry.
I did just have an administrative question for you, Steve, actually. So at the end where we say additional requirements for rights of the conferences, it says that all of them are going to go through their supervisor and you or designee. And you want to make sure that goes.
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that we're going to be tightening up, if we send folks to conferences, we want them to come back and turnkey that information and make sure that's part of our PD days.
Just want to make sure.
I just want to ask about the $30 a day. Brenda, that is the current amount, right?
It is,
That we use.
yes.
And it doesn't specify the meal, it's just, so you can have
Right, I would,
breakfast for $30?
That's.
nothing else.
We had, yeah.
That was last month.
We had a big discussion about this last month.
I'm glad we did, I didn't like the way everything worked.
Right.
Oh, okay. Oh,
We had-
you did the different, you broke down the meal.
We broke it down and it ended up being like $50 a day if you did all three of the meals. I think.
And in addition, it was more generous for
That's
lunch, or that was
right.
part of the
Yeah.
conversation, or for
Right.
breakfast,
Okay.
excuse me. And then there's always a conversation about lunch, when you're at work or whatever, you pay for your own lunch. So, I mean, $30 a day is consistent with what we're doing.
Mhm. Current practice.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right, so this is the second reading and then also the approval.
And if I could, just on those particular, the policy and the AR, thank you, it gives very clear direction, and we can share it with the staff. It will help with your cutoff and keeping expenses in the appropriate, correct fiscal year.
Great. Okay. So that's second reading, adoption, approval. All right, great. Jury duty. 342.
No, under guidelines, I mean, I don't know how you fix this. You know, we say employee shall notify their employee, their immediate supervisor. Is it okay to have singular and?
No, it should say is her. I thought we were going away from that.
I know, so what are we gonna do? I don't know how you fix it.
You just, The world seems to be moving toward fixing it by accepting there as a singular,
It's a singular.
Ah.
which is, I agree,
It's,
a
yeah.
little weird.
Okay, I just wanted,
I know.
I
English doesn't have a good solution for this.
Or we can just say employees,
Right.
employees should notify their supervisors, but, right.
That's true.
Mr. Sirota and Dr. King write the style manual.
Right, I know, that's what we're
Strong.
reading.
That'll be in the caveat.
That's not the strong, what
Yeah,
is that
we
called?
don't
Strong
need
and light.
like readings for that.
Yeah, strong and
Those
light.
are just, those are substantive changes.
This is
No,
actually.
this is okay.
I heard that from years.
I think so. I mean, it's a matter of trying to rewrite it without using
It's semantics,
sort
it's
of,
fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's all.
possessive.
Really nothing in there.
Right. Okay. All right, and that is also second reading. Adoption,
The next one, I think, about the,
352.
the excellent observation, you don't really need an AR.
What's that, for employee recognition?
Yeah, I think you said that. I think everything was said in the policy.
Let's look.
Well, what the policy says that an AR will specify when, at what intervals, and the form of recognition.
It's literally a sentence.
Mm.
But we could just replace that.
That's
sentence.
right.
Is that what
I think,
it is?
yeah, my suggestion is just put it right in the policy.
Right.
So the only reason not to do that, I'm not saying it's a good reason, but the only reason I can think of not to do it is because ARs are much more flexible, and if we want to
Sure.
change that.
Well, in our world, it's not that much more flexible because we have to have it in a policy committee meeting and then do one vote instead of two votes, you know? So in
Yeah.
other places, it's more flexible because there's no need for board approval on an AR, so.
And I don't even know, like, I mean, I guess it's nice to, and we would want to recognize people at 5-year intervals, but, I mean, I don't know that we even want to get necessarily that specific.
In policy, you're saying. Well, also, it also occurs to me, we know about, we deliberately don't specify what the nature of the recognition will be in the AR, but the policy says that we will.
We would have to change
So
that.
we need to fix that.
Exactly.
So since we're fixing it anyway,
We can really fix it.
yeah, maybe if we put it all in, put just enough in the policy, I guess.
So in purpose, first sentence, I think that or should be an and, because we recognize that that's periodic intervals and at retirement, unless we want to leave it open. We recognize them always separate time, so it's not an or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be in there.
So then delegation of responsibility, it's, well, we don't need the regulations. I mean, it's essentially going back to what the policy has been, or similar to it.
You
So
know,
it's just guidelines, we can take out delegation of responsibility then?
Yeah, take out delegation responsibility and put what's currently in the AR under guidelines.
and Sigafus will agree with us, we have to go past the 35.
Well, yeah, just, the AR doesn't specify.
Right, we just say 5 years starting at
Yes.
15.
35 years.
Every 5 years, starting at 15.
So take everything,
Okay.
yeah, right.
Is that a substantive change?
I don't think it is, because it's
Going back.
just moving things around.
All right, so we're not gonna have an AR, no AR.
Would that be a repeal then? Would
No,
you just
AR
ER?
is new.
Okay,
No.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Ken, can I give you some homework when you get a chance, Ken? In terms of the districts that you work with, how many of them have board approving the ARs?
I'm sure you can do.
So you did your homework already. We're the only district that approves ARs. And what's the history of that? Why did
Anita
they
Brister. Anita Brister, when she was on policy committee,
insisted that the ARs be?
convinced the majority of the board at the time to agree with it.
And when we looked at local board procedures earlier, last year, whenever we talked about it, and one of the things is because we're moving a lot of the information out into the ARs and taking it out of policy, that was part of the rationale. Well, we can do that, we're comfortable with that because we're looking at the ARs anyway, so.
I think it might be worthwhile that once we complete the review of all the policies, that we would revisit that and consider.
I agree.
changing that. Exactly.
Right.
And even in a district where the board doesn't formally approve of it, the policy committee is required, the policy committee to see them, and the board see them. It's just that they don't need to, they don't need to go on the board of general, legislative meeting vote.
But we'll be done, kind of the end of this calendar year, hopefully. We'll have looked at most of the policies on the,
I started going through the 100s.
yeah,
We had to jump on it.
good.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we've left some, as you can see,
I
we've
think-
left some
I
of the
really
sections.
think we do the 100s, conversation for another time, but we should have an ad hoc style committee.
All right. We can eliminate a couple of the members of the current policy committee.
Or you just want to go faster.
Yeah.
Because some of them were like, because some of them were really, really old.
Yeah,
that- yeah.
it's gonna be, it'll be fun. So that'll be fun. Okay. All right, where are we? All right, so that was 352. So we're not gonna do a new AR, and we're just gonna do a second reading of the policy after moving stuff around a little bit. Okay, great. Next up is just an AR, 356. Oh. You're right, I just skipped over an entire policy.
I didn't have
Yeah,
any
thank you.
policy.
I haven't clicked on it myself. All right, so 353. The policy is not extensive, so are there any changes to the couple of sentences that are policy?
The only thing I see is in the new language and purpose, submit to whom? They must submit all background check report and certifications, doesn't say how or where or to whom.
That's true.
Tom, do they all go to your office?
Yeah, they do. So,
Do they come through the building to your office? The individual schools to your office, or do they come directly to your office
when
when they submit clearances?
they come directly to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, it also doesn't say to whom in the AR, so you could put it in the AR.
That's where it should be.
Right, the purpose I think makes sense because it says as specified, so
Yeah.
I think it's fine to have it the way it is in the purpose. I think it's in the AR that we need to clarify.
You're right.
So like that, the sentence maybe?
Yeah, so let's look at the AR and see
Not,
here.
the policy's fine.
Oh,
Yep.
Now, on that point, the AR is actually worded a little bit differently. It just says prospective employees must obtain. It doesn't actually say that even though they must be submitted, you just have to obtain them.
Okay, so we need to make sure we look at it.
Later on, it does say the district will review them, so presumably they have to have been submitted. but-
Right,
and plus it presents.
so, yeah, obtain and
Obtain and present.
present renewed doc.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
yeah, but even for prospective employees must obtain and,
They get presented at the Human Resources Department.
Yes.
Okay, so for the first sentence, prospective employees, school employees must obtain and present to the HR department the documents / certifications listed below.
Now, the same thing happens in the third paragraph.
Did we get the second sentence down? Once the current employees are required to obtain and present to the Human Resources Department renewed document certifications. Okay. Sorry, Mark.
That's all right, sorry. And the third one, it says if an individual with current certification expires, they must obtain and presumably and present.
And present
sorry.
Should that also then be in the first sentence as well? Where it says obtain,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that we
but-
obtain
we
and
did that.
present to the
that we did in the second sentence, not the
We
first.
did that.
We did, okay. It's not up there.
Oh, we're up
It's
there.
not there. Yeah.
Yeah, I just,
You want me to add to the?
Yes,
HR
yes.
department, yeah. Okay.
If an individual, it says they, so we can leave that in
Where are you? Oh, yeah.
the second paragraph. Yeah. Another picture.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like the language there, like the there thing we were talking
Right.
about earlier, and it seems to be becoming accepted in
Yeah.
Okay.
Brooke or Ken, if one of you after, there's a bunch of citations and cross-references, we just add them to the bottom eventually.
Yep.
That'd be great.
You mean in addition to leaving them where they are, or instead?
Well, typically we just have at the very bottom of the footnotes with like cross links so that people who reference this can actually just click on it as well. So I'm just saying, add it.
No, I just, no, I know, I understand you need to have them as cross-references that references to the policy, but is that in addition to or in lieu of including it in the text of the?
I think just have both, and so,
Fine.
yeah.
Yeah, just add a line.
I have a logistical question. The second to last paragraph says substitute employees must undergo the review only upon their initial hire or placement. Is that okay only because by some law or regulation or other policy, they can't be employed long enough as a substitute to not need a refresh of those documents?
Another, if they're a substitute for longer than 5 years, just like our regular employees, we require them to update them.
5 years, 16 months, okay. But why, wait, you said we were.
Employment.
We are.
requires them to update them?
We do or is
We do what the state does.
Both.
If they're employees of the district, we require it of all of our employees. So if we have substitute nurses, substitute custodians, those are our employees, not used,
Not as-
through some sort of service. But the services that we use go with the assumption of updating every 5 years.
That's wrong.
Yeah, so then,
Wrong.
Well, what's employment review? I guess that's the,
These
it
reviews
seems like
are-
this whole paragraph would be struck.
Yeah, I don't think what it ends.
right,
Yeah.
it doesn't add anything.
So I can strike that.
Yeah, that's his 2 sentences.
This one right here.
The substitute employees.
And in the very last paragraph, should that end at the end, be and or?
So,
Fine. I mean, I guess it's a name, so.
Right.
but,
Yeah.
Whatever you all.
It doesn't matter.
Employees hired on a provisional basis, 4 paragraphs from the bottom.
Mhm.
I mean, that work along with children. Is that, do we mean children, do we mean students, do we mean? We've had this children and students pupils, special impacts.
Where did we make, I think, I count maybe only one students, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the problem is that this law talks about children. The law specifically that uses the word children instead of students,
Okay.
which makes it
Yeah,
more difficult.
I can't think of any scenarios under which we have non-student children here, but if we did, they'd be left to be covered.
Okay. So leave it alone.
What about a 19-year-old student?
There can be 12 to 21. Says students.
Yeah, I don't think they're covered by this law.
Okay.
They're covered by, they're covered under with policies, adult student boundaries, for example. But there's no requirement that we not let them, somebody who doesn't have to perform a background check or stay down, but we, you know, double check that, but I don't think that's.
All right, so it's kind of not double check.
All right. Anything else, guys?
Because I think when we do our community project, my understanding is you don't require background checks if the student is 18 or over, or you do?
If the student's 18 or over, correct?
You don't require criminal background checks from the person they're interning with or anything like that?
Right.
Right.
So we don't.
Right. That's an Eastern thing too.
Yeah. So, and to impose that requirement, like the one district that did it, to impose that requirement when you don't legally have to, you can be creating an unanticipated burden on kids being able to find community projects.
Yeah.
Or community service.
Okay.
All right. So that's a second reading, adoption approval for the, yeah.
Did we correct after the third bullet of the offenses, up at the top there, Brooke, where it says an applicant shall not be employed by the Department of Human Services, Human Resources, should be.
Oh, okay.
Right, that's, you're
Second
right
right
there.
Yeah.
Your cursor down a little bit.
Was this a statewide department, not you?
No, it's, no, Tommy Gray.
Okay.
Oh, wait,
Isn't it, it's DHS though, isn't
I think
wait a minute.
it? What?
when,
A little
Which
bit
one are you
longer,
on?
Brooke. There you go, right,
Just a little bit.
that first paragraph after that third
Oh,
bullet.
Should not be employed by the
It's
department.
actually, in this context, it's
Human
actually,
Resources.
And would
this
be-
context either is correct.
Right, either one, right.
Okay, so where either the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services or the districts.
Well, the Human Resources Department isn't going to verify it unless they're in the DHS that big, so.
Either one works, because we're talking about, this is referring to the Pennsylvania
Oh,
Department.
the statewide database is the DHS database.
Exactly.
So who's going to do the verification? It's going to be
Human Resources.
Yeah, so that should change.
Yeah.
Or human resources.
That just change services to resources.
And for consistency, we actually say human resources department, right?
I don't think what they're thinking of calling it.
Human resources.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, is there anything else? the next one is just the standalone, it's the AR for 356.
So I have a concern with the opening paragraph of 356. Maybe I'm reading it overly strictly, but it seems like if I'm a teacher who has an outside business interest, some retail, I sell shoes or whatever, and the student is a customer, I have to disclose it? That seems like an overreach.
Where does it say?
It says,
You talk about the
District-
policy or the administrative regulation?
I am in the, what is
I
it?
think it's only
This
AR.
whole-
It's only an AR, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can, let's look at that.
We're here, 356. isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just-
So under disclosure requirement, it says, district employees shall disclose the names of all district students who are participants of any nature in a non-district sponsored activity, either as customers, employees, or otherwise.
Right.
So if I sell shoes and a student buys shoes from my retail establishment, I have to disclose that?
Participants of any nature in a, students who are employed by or volunteer in connection with the outside business interest. Okay, that's over there.
Yeah.
Or participants of any nature in a non-district sponsored activity. A non-district sponsored activity is not selling shoes. Non-district sponsored activity is I'm taking kids to Germany on my own time.
Okay.
Sponsor activity. Do we have this, the outside business interest is capital.
Is it defined?
Use the files in policy and find that way in policy.
I don't think we have, I can't find the policy.
No, look up the policy.
Hmm? 356, do we have a policy?
I think it was a
That's
new
what's
one,
not-
right?
I didn't go to the index and just check on the index. Policy index would tell us if there is not.
Here.
We do.
Right here.
Yeah.
Just in drafts.
But it was
Yeah.
approved last month.
Okay, because it wasn't, yeah, that's why I can't find it, because it's not in there.
356.
Found it,
No, it's still first.
there we go.
Yeah, I don't think it was approved.
It was not.
Then
So it should be under,
This needs to be in there.
but it's under the review documents.
Yeah, they did.
Right. Okay.
I think
They're
what
just, they
happened
got
is,
separated, that's all.
since our last meeting, and I confirmed this with Michelle and Ed, there were substantive changes that Ed made. Isn't this correct?
356.
Yeah. The things that he added
That
were
they're
not.
highlighted.
Right, then it's premature to go for approval on AR 356.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can still.
But it should have been reviewed, yeah, it should be.
Right, but
We
you
can
should
add
be
that to be
like,
reviewed.
Yeah, it was a back, it was to come back, that's
Well,
what
why don't we
the,
start with the policy first, then.
Okay.
right, so let's go back to 356, yeah, no, it was to come back
Yeah,
this month.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't ready. All right, so looking at the actual policy now.
So we're looking at policy next month?
Okay,
We can-
what happened last?
Right, it's scheduled to be, we talked about it at the last policy committee meeting, and we said we're gonna bring it back.
And we said we were going to combine the private coaching policy into
Right.
this policy.
Okay.
Those changes were made, which are substantive,
Mhm.
and so that's what was done. Now, what we didn't do, I didn't do, I guess I should say since Mona did it, what I didn't do was combine the tutoring policy. And I don't know if you want it to be separate
Yeah,
or.
well, I was just thinking that exactly. Why are we doing this specifically for coaching but not for other activities?
Right,
Well, it doesn't even have to be tutoring, which is academic, it could be, a club or, some chess team, something, a sport, just,
Do you employ
not
the chess
athletic
team?
coach.
Do you employ the chess team coaches?
I don't know, do we?
No,
I mean, they're employees technically, right? Are they?
Do we pay them?
Who pays them?
Employees tutor?
No, you have club
Chess.
sports here, right?
Uh-huh.
You have like a club hockey team and all that stuff.
Yes.
Do you employ the coaches or the clubs employ them?
I think
We-
both.
Yeah.
Okay, well then they're employees, so they'd be covered.
But it's, this is employed as a district athletic coach. And it'd be a hard pressed to call a chess team leader an athletic coach. I mean, there's, you gotta.
All right, all right, but they would still be covered by the rest of the conflicts of interest. They still wouldn't be allowed to recruit people on their chess team using district resources. They still wouldn't be allowed to use their position as a district employee to further that outside interest. They would have to disclose it.
So, but an athletic coach is specifically not allowed to privately coach any of their team members, but could the chess team coach also privately coach their
You don't currently have a rule against that.
Yeah, so why would we be specific about athletics and not about that?
Well, so athletics is a practical matter. Athletics, people get very upset about people getting preferential treatment in sports because, oh my gosh, if I don't go to this coach, they're not going to play me, I'm not going to get the minutes. If I don't go to this particular coach's camp, I'm not going to make the team, or I'm not going to be able to start. I mean, it's just a lot of, it's a very,
So how is this gonna work with, like, UDAC? Don't we have some of the same coaches for UDAC with the high school?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean,
Coaches
right.
are also doing-
I won't ask the question, I know we have some of the same coaches for UDAC that we do with the swim coach, so like, the implication for that.
now,
But they don't, but it's not.
theory, in theory, could this consideration be the same thing for the chess team? I guess if you didn't go to specific teachers, if you were to, if you didn't go to specific teachers, chess camp, you might not get preferential seating when you were on the chess team if they were the coach. It's very possible. We do have other things that say we have to disclose it, so we'd be able to monitor it, you'd be able to see it. But you could make the same rules for them if there's, is there?
There's the chess.
Okay.
But it's not, I mean, there's, lots of other, there's math competitions, there's quiz bowl, there's, I mean.
Those are district sponsored, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's different. Those people are, so, okay, so I guess it's, all right, let's suppose we have a district sponsored math team. Then the question is, would you have a, math camp or some sort of extra math thing that they get extra support for? That would fall under either tutoring or under using your employment to further your interests. So it would still be covered.
But it wouldn't be as strong as this. We thought about it.
It would be as,
This is like,
It would be-
you just can't do it.
it
The other one
wouldn't be
says we
an-
can see it.
yeah,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be an outright prohibition.
Yeah.
So, unless it was considered tutoring. Rich, if you look at the tutoring policy.
I'm gonna send everybody the tutor list that we have, because there's wording on the tutor list, and I think conflicts with where this discussion is. So granted, it looks like the tutor policy hasn't been updated since very long time ago, even though the tutor list references recent, it's not.
Right, would you like tutors to be held at the same standard as coaches? Because we can, this policy tutoring policy can be.
I'm honestly not sure. I guess I'm asking the question to try to come up with an answer to that. So, the core question is, should we be treating athletics activities and academics differently in these three things? Maybe the answer is yes. And if so, are we doing so properly? Or if not, are we actually accomplishing that successfully here? And here, we are holding athletic coaches to a different standard. And you do make it, something of a case for why that might be appropriate, but we should make sure we agree that that's sensible.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have an opinion necessarily about it. Just, are we making any changes here that is gonna change what's going on right now?
That's a good question.
What's current practice?
I mean, what's our current practice? Yeah, right? I mean, that's what we're looking at. Right, with all this stuff, with tutoring, with sports, with all this stuff.
Well, I think with tutoring,
What
you
is the
can't tutor
impact?
your own students, right? So you can't tutor your own students, is what that
If
says.
you, if you read the top and the bottom of the thing I just sent you, it's the tutor list with.
By email or something? How'd you send it?
I
Yeah,
just
the email.
emailed it to you. And that's this was, I guess updated, it looks like 9/7/18 with the tutors, the new tutors.
Mhm.
But there's language at the bottom and language at the top, Ken, that you might want to pay attention to. This comes through the curriculum department, and if, you know, counselors, often teachers will, parents will say, is there a tutor, or do you know anybody that can tutor?
Mhm.
And so this is the list that they are currently utilizing. With disclaimers, like I'm reading the bottom and it says, you know, we're no longer, this list is in no way represents district's recommendation of services or whether or not they've obtained the criminal background checks. And I'm like, but most of them,
Most of them are teachers, so.
But
most of them.
honestly, and we did this in 2 previous districts, we did not maintain a list of tutors. So if a parent reached out to the school that said, we need a tutor, guidance would send an email just saying, there's a parent that's requested, here's, you know, if anyone is interested in knowing more, please come see me, and then the guidance counselor could give the family contact information to the teacher. I struggle with us maintaining a list.
At one point, it was the school, state board requirement that we do so, and it may still be, let me check that.
Okay.
Okay, so what's the verdict on whether you want to, A, combine tutoring into here, which I think,
that makes sense. I think we'll have one big policy to cover all the different areas.
and B, make the activities sponsors similar, covering as similar as Dick coaches. That's easily done as well.
My instinct is that they should be treated the same.
Yeah, that's fine.
Persuaded otherwise, probably.
There's no.
Yeah, that's, I know, I found it.
The principal reason to treat them different is just where you tend to have more of your problems, that's all.
Yeah.
There's no principal reason to keep it different.
On the list of tutors where we say at the top, and if we're in compliance with school district policies, we should probably be citing the policy.
Yeah, we can add that.
Um,
I'm sorry, where are you looking at?
The tutor
If
list.
the tutor list, if we're going to continue to maintain the tutor list, I think the statement at the top should actually cite the appropriate references.
School district, they'll help you out.
I know,
Oh, never
No,
mind,
school
the
district.
Facebook page, it still says school district.
I know, I have to figure it out.
Good luck.
No, it's not that hard.
So will be.
And I'm thinking, the policy that we're going to review later, 359, conflict of interest, with also 356, isn't that what we're really getting at in 356? Is that we're trying to remove conflict of interest via outside employment? And could it be something that,
Well, it's not the same thing.
I understand there's distinctions, but we're getting at, we're in the same ballpark.
We are, yeah, we're in the same, I agree, we're in the same ballpark, but this one is really about, conflict of interest is really about making money or other, related benefit from your employment, where this is about the students. Well, it does say, the first thing, this does not create natural or potential conflict of interest.
Right, there's a similarity. absolutely.
But maybe it could be broken up differently. Seems like this one's gonna have to come back.
Right, so we're going to need to add tutoring into it, so.
So you want to then incorporate what was formerly the conflict of interest public, which gives some discounts, is also conflict of interest.
There's a couple of these.
350 now, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you could, that should be put in the omnibus policy with everything in there, but
I don't mind having necessarily little separate policies so people don't have to weed through everything, but I mean, I don't know. This one's money.
Yeah, but I think if we're trying to set, so the overarching policy is that we want to ensure that all of our employees don't violate ethically or morally this idea of a conflict of interest in the position.
Right.
Right. And so the facets of that can come in all the various forms, right? They could be through contracts, they could be through tutoring, coaching, et cetera, et cetera. I think for it to be under one umbrella would be easier to navigate than for it to be in a couple different buckets, even for ourselves. Because then we have to ask ourselves, okay, which policy does it necessarily violate versus saying an omnibus policy that has all of our intentions about saying that we're doing a conflict of interest.
it's a good time to have a conversation, because it just so happens, happy coincidence, you're looking at all three.
I know. I love that.
Yeah, now would be the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we can
It's also titled a
divvy
lot.
it up.
Yeah, but it's titled a lot nicer too, because this current policy, or even gifts,
I know.
et cetera, and things like that, to me, that's not what it should be called, right?
Right, it's a conflict of interest.
Exactly, and then the outside
Okay.
employment is also simply a conflict. of
Maybe
interest.
what it really is there's an omnibus conflict of interest policy, a bunch of ARs.
Yeah,
Broken up into
One
different
about,
things.
yes, one about
Yeah.
coaching.
Right,
one
so
I
about-
like
just
that, I
broad-
like that.
Yeah.
One broad policy.
yeah, so the policy says this is where we stand, and then, yeah, the AR would be much more explicit in regards to all these.
Policy, one line, no conflict.
All right.
Don't do that.
And then there's gifts.
And yes,
Kind of lends some
Employment.
ways to it.
okay, outside employment, that thing you're thinking of doing,
And also, we have a community
Gives them
resources
discounts.
guide, would that also be on
the tutoring policy,
Yeah.
right?
The counselors, et cetera, have private providers, therapists, and things like that. It's called Community Resources Guide.
That's
I'm
not a
gonna lump that
policy,
whole thing
that's,
into there.
that's not a policy, that's not a policy.
No, but if we're looking at all these
That's
different
outside
lists
interest.
of things.
Yeah, what you're describing sounds like there will be a lot of things that are covered by this.
Okay. I'll just-
Yeah.
356
It's all-
between, tutoring.
There's no date on there.
No, you have to,
Yeah, September of 18.
I think, do they have to submit their names again on this list?
The tutoring.
It goes to the curriculum department. I assume that they have to notify them whether or not something's changed, or they want to be on it or off it.
I would hope so, but I wonder if that's true.
Yeah.
Now, the board members, organizational,
I don't know,
keep that separate.
Yeah, that's different, that's a local board procedure.
Yeah.
Tom,
Zero,
you're
zero,
the
seven.
one that, you're the one that was part of the
Yeah, no, I mean,
one
this
that
is
lists
a
the
That's
different.
We just make sure we have the background checks if they're in the tutoring list.
But it says we don't look at background checks.
Right, I didn't write it. I didn't write it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we have some work to
Are
do.
we done? I think that's one of the,
No.
something we do want to make people understand, is if you're,
Tom just said we do.
well, forever you want them,
On our list.
you only use employees on your list.
Or the tutoring list.
No,
You might, you wouldn't use it, I mean, if somebody's
I
there on
see
a
some
basis,
people
on
in here that
a
are-
basis, and they want to be on your list.
I see some teachers that live here, and a couple that don't work
All
here.
right, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Clients each one's. I did get an email from Tisha about this policy specifically, and it was about the, essentially current practice versus how that would impact our athletics. So, I just want to bring that up, that's why I want to talk about it a little bit, it's just that since we do have coaches that are coaching, UDAC, whatever, the baseball, lacrosse, all those things, those private leagues, and then also coach for us, baseball,
Yeah, it seems like a problem.
first of all, there's only so many people out there, so, right? But it also does create a problem, because if you swim with UDAC, or you're swimming with a different organization, and then this is your coach, that can create issues, so I don't know how to solve issues here, but that's,
And, yeah,
right.
and has the current language that we even have here not yet for approval been put through with our AD? Steve or Tom?
Yeah, has Mr. Griner looked at this? I'm guessing no.
I mean, at least, as long as, the way we're operating now is at least, as long as there's no, direct promoting or beneficial gain by a coach, I mean, if they happen, let's say lacrosse, as long as the coach isn't saying, hey, you need to participate in this lacrosse camp that's being sponsored, that they also work for, at the summer or at other times, they might happen to be an employee of that camp, and if some of our players participate in that camp on their own, we've allowed that to take place, as long as there's no direct promoting or beneficial gain.
How would you know if they're going to stay in practice? And how would you know word of mouth? I mean, I don't know, how would you know?
Because if we catch them doing it, we
Well,
can discipline them,
and
right?
to
Yeah.
your earlier point, how would you know if, they're playing those players more because they have some relationship with them?
Even if they're not, how would you know that parents weren't making choices to put their kids in this camp because they thought they were?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it would be worthwhile, I think, to Tisha's point, that we make sure that practice is aligning with what we're proposing here.
Because if we're making some big change, then that's something we need to consider, all the impacts on that. Because I mean, I think number 6, anyone employed as a district athletic coach is not permitted to receive financial remuneration for the private coaching or private training of district, right? And if you look how it's defined, private coaching, private training, it's, means administrative director and coaching a camp, clinic, league, non-district team or tournament, so I think that whether it's in season or out of season. So I think that's when you start changing,
Maybe we should be specific about in season.
some of the seasons overlap,
Well, and some of the sports seasons are all year
the same
long.
thing, yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, why don't I take it back, we'll have Eric Reiner
Yeah.
yeah,
look at it, and then
Well,
we'll.
I could talk
right,
about
we just
that.
need to know what the implications
It's
are.
coming back anyway, yes.
Right, that's what it is, we just need to see what the implications are.
And I'm meeting with him on Thursday anyway, so.
Good.
Okay.
His part is already in there.
His part's already in there.
Right, so he can,
Can they use, some of them are using their district email.
Yeah.
of course,
District resources for private gain.
right, which is what's something.
Yeah, that should be prohibited.
Yes, absolutely.
We have a little bit of work to do. I'm sure there must be some districts that you've worked with recently that have really worked on this.
Yeah, you're about the fourth policy, you're about the fourth district is bringing this to a head.
Okay, so we're bringing back, do we want to look at the other ones? Do we want to talk about the gifts?
Well, I want to make sure I got it right what you wanted to do.
So, big
Whatever I
policy.
incorporated into the rest of it, I want to make sure that it's
Right,
something you wanted to incorporate.
thank you.
Bring back 356 and then.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at. So the 356 will come back and it'll have, as a part of it, so we're having a larger conflict of interest policy is the idea. Part of that policy is going to include the outside employment businesses. We also in there, we can include the gift. Ban is the right word, but the
Gifts
gift
and
portion.
discounts.
And then this goes right into, I mean, it's part of 359, which is the conflict of interest.
Yep.
I mean,
Well,
that's
the tutor-
obvious.
well, the tutor.
And then adding the tutoring policy in as well. So referencing that in the policy and then having the administrative regulations maybe separate out per, one for tutoring, one for,
I think that's a good idea.
okay, those things. Okay. Okay, so those all the way back. Do we want to talk about, I know we've had 322 before us a few times now. Do we want to talk about that now so we know since that's going to be combined in this policy? Or do we want to wait to have that, keep having that conversation.
I think it's under weight.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll push 322 off until when we're talking, bringing it back next month, when it's a combined policy then.
And then, so 322
Yeah, I'll.
and 356 are not on the legislative agenda.
Right,
Not
yep,
moved
356,
at all.
359, 322, all of those we're gonna bring back,
Revisit.
yep.
Got it.
Okay. So, getting back to the first part of the agenda, then it's 007, local board procedure, which is conflict of interest for board members. This is our new policy, our new procedure, as we're calling it. And obviously, we did a first reading last time, last legislative meeting.
So I'm not clear on, under standards of conduct, there's two sets of bullets. The second set of bullets says, when advertised formal bidding is not required or used, an open public process shall include these things. Why is that in the conflict of interest for board members policy?
Because because it's all part of the state ethics act. There's no better way than, that's the only answer I have. It's disclosure that would tend to reveal a potential conflict of interest.
The first set of bullets is, starts with a board member. The sentence above that doesn't seem to lead into the bullets very well. I'm not sure what, it feels like there's a sentence missing.
You're correct.
Yeah, it's missing.
Right down in the sentence, I'm sure it's right out of the ethics thing.
I have another question. So after the second set of bullets, it says, subject to the following exception, if you're going to abstain, you have to do this stuff. That's true no matter why you're abstaining, right? It's not just if you're abstaining for a conflict of interest. Is that correct?
You have to state why you're abstaining if it's a financial conflict of interest. There's no law that requires you to state why you're abstaining if it's not a financial conflict of interest.
Okay. So then this is fine.
Not only are you required to abstain, you're required to fill out that form,
Right.
state that disclosure form. And you have to state in your abstention why you're abstaining.
Right. So what, does this apply to, I mean, essentially the situation we just had the other day when, if you have for like the teacher's contract or another collective bargaining agreement where you have a spouse that's a member of that bargaining unit?
Yeah, I did, that was you may recall, I issued a memo of orientation to the board on that.
Right.
And it's not a conflict for the board member, even if their spouse
Right.
is in there for them to vote. They can choose not to, but
Right.
it's not by law, they're not prohibited, they're prohibited, just.
In which case, they're not
negotiations.
required to disclose why they're abstaining.
Right, they wouldn't be
They're not required
required.
to do the form.
You're not required, yes, it's not
Right.
required to stay.
So,
First of all,
right.
you're not required to stay why.
The meeting that we had the other night, the legislative meeting, that Ed attended, Stan abstained from the contract.
And he knew he didn't have to.
But he put it on the record and he filled out a form.
You thought one of that.
Okay, so that's what, that.
It's still a good, I mean, it's. it was-
Yeah, it's not bad practice, it's just that it wasn't required
He
to.
doesn't, no, he didn't need to fill out the form.
Right.
I still think it's a good practice that when you have that type of connection, just still abstain even though it's not required.
I think, yeah, and especially when you don't use that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was fine, it was just a matter
Could have
of,
been a 5 for contract.
right. Okay, so no, it was just a matter of, I know that's what he felt most comfortable doing, and obviously it's going kind of above and beyond what he would be required to do, so. And so that's what it's saying, even putting this into place, that wouldn't require anything different, or at least it doesn't change,
This does not, you can't, this does not impose any obligation on you that isn't existent in law, and it doesn't, this covers what the law requires, and that's it.
right,
You couldn't, I don't believe you have the power to tell each other what you can and can't vote on beyond what is in the ethics act. You can't all say, well, even though the law lets you,
we're gonna not let you.
we're not going to vote on it.
Right.
That, I don't think you have the power to do
I don't think we did either, so, okay, good, okay,
Sounds good.
okay.
Not to make semantics, but if we reference this as a policy and it's a local board procedure, is that fine, Ted?
that.
Instead of calling, so we were calling it a policy throughout this local board procedure. Do we need to change it to local board procedure when we're saying it's actually the,
Oh, it actually.
Right, it constitutes a violation of this policy, but what we're
Oh, I
saying,
see what you're saying, yeah. that-
Right.
Yeah, you should replace policy everywhere with local board
Okay.
procedure.
not to make a movement, but actually in 004 we also missed that as well.
Should have that in all the, should have that in all the,
All right.
somebody can just go to school.
Yeah.
yeah, because that's not, I
Yep.
can change, I'll change it.
So it's not actually everyone.
No, and it's not,
Every
yeah.
policy.
No, it's just.
So when it says this,
Oh, okay, all right.
This policy should be this local board procedure.
yeah.
Okay, go back and look, Mark, the district may not enter into a contract with or more with the following individuals unless the contract blah, 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 blah. So those 4 are the following individuals referred to in that first sentence.
Okay, good. That's,
So there is nothing missing.
Can we change the order of the sentences to make
Yeah.
that clear?
You can put, in such a case, you can put that after the list.
Yeah, that would help.
So move the sentence
Leave that in such a case, then, yeah.
yeah,
after,
so after the list of,
Yeah, you can make the period or semicolon. It'd be after awarded, and then become a semicolon.
Yeah.
right.
oops, sorry,
No, it should be.
colon?
What did I say? I meant colon.
Sorry.
Oxford Cone.
And then you need a blank line here. Okay. Done? Done.
Anything else we see from local board procedure to follow? Okay. So the second reading. All right, and then that was a 004. This policy that doesn't go away.
What was the fourth procedure?
Yeah, damn it.
That was.
Ken started it by that, I just beat the horse.
I know.
Yeah. I have 2 small fixes. I have two
We can
lines.
blame the lawyer.
At the very bottom of 004, can we just change the PA to Pennsylvania? Because it's
Yeah.
actually lowercase as well, so it's more of a
Yeah,
personal.
thank you.
Maybe we should say Penna.
The last, second.
At the very
last
bottom,
You
standards
can,
code
too.
of conduct.
The board adopts the PA school board
Yeah.
decision.
Ken's not laughing.
Let's go back on the singular sense.
So very bottom, that was at the very bottom.
Which one?
Oh, come on, we're the best committee.
Oh, I'm on the wrong one, sorry.
I did have a thought actually as well, on the conferences, only because the TSGA conference is always an annual conference that we, as the board attend.
This is wrong.
They're not listening right now, but I'll say it anyway. Would it be worthwhile just simply to say that that conference is separate than the other conferences that are referenced here? I mean, should it be worthwhile to distinguish it?
We don't do code of conduct anymore, we do
Yeah.
I mean-
principles, governance, and behavior.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. PSBA Vice President.
Yeah, let's ask him.
Sorry.
Let's get him.
I asked you a very specific question, no, just joking. So actually, under the conferences, the only question I had is, so we have all these rules about what conferences we can attend, and my question is, should we make a distinction of the PSBA conference as being one that's not necessary under these guidelines? So that really, in essence, we're encouraging board members to actually go to the conference, rather than having to worry about all this.
So you want to say conferences outside, this applies to conferences that are not PSBA?
Exactly.
Right.
Maybe something as simple as that.
Right.
Well, we're members of PSBA, so maybe an organization of which we are
That could be
members,
the-
or do you want to be explicit about this?
We don't even have to do it, I just, as I was reading it again today, I just thought, oh, it's weird that we have this,
Right.
when we regularly promote and desire our board members to go to the PSBA
Yeah.
conference.
I think by including it encourages people to participate, and I think that's a good thing, so.
So what exactly?
Yeah, what would you
So
do?
maybe perhaps your first wording, which I like probably the better of the two, is just simply outside, or not including the PSBA conference. Not including the annual PSBA conference.
Whatever.
E?
Uh,
Just applying to E, not the whole section.
E,
Sure.
E is out-of-state conferences.
yeah, he's just,
Oh, you're right.
yeah, state, right? So not state conferences in 1 year's.
Yeah.
I'm like, how many are even available? Yeah.
Because I feel like this should all apply to the PSBA conference.
Now, we can put in there, we could put a line in here that says, you know, that we value the PSBA conference and we encourage our board members to attend.
Yeah, well, I was thinking on there, like, for example, bullet A, or point A on there, right? So
Mhm.
number of opportunity I attend without prior approval, the majority of.
Well, you want to explicitly approve PSBA conferences, then, so we don't have to, but there's still money to be expended.
Yeah, we're still gonna have to approve
They still
that.
get it,
Mhm.
We can leave it as is,
Yeah.
it was a thought that I had.
Mhm.
Couldn't move forward.
I'm not opposed to putting a sentence in there that says, like, we
Yeah.
value and we encourage, you know, to attend, specifically attend the PSBA
It doesn't
conference.
sound like a statement policy.
I'm glad that this meeting wasn't scheduled for tomorrow, because if we would have had a snow day, we would have missed it.
Now he's mocking us.
Actually, this is actually interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Looks like it's gonna rain. Maybe it
Somebody's walking around with it.
I didn't read it.
It's not Michelle.
All right,
Art has one at the bottom.
all right, Art.
Okay.
At the bottom, we don't adopt the standards for code of conduct for members of Pennsylvania. I think now we do the principles of governance and leadership.
Ah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was wondering.
As per the AR.
Yeah, it doesn't, we changed the AR, we didn't change the policy.
Yeah, we're gonna change policy again.
You're right.
Oopsie.
If you want to put the statement like, you know, we value PSBA, that could go on the AR.
What should it say? Board adopts
I
the
know.
school boards association, what?
Principles of governance
Principles
and
of
leadership.
governance.
Governance and leadership, yeah.
So we actually explicitly adopt them as a motion every year.
We do, and they encourage that we have new board members, so we do.
Right.
But this says we adopt them as a statement
Yes,
of policy.
we
Yeah.
go above and beyond for PSBA.
Like, should this say every year the board should adopt?
Well, if we should forget, because you don't,
Yeah.
this was intended so that you wouldn't have to do it every year.
Right,
Okay.
but we do it anyway. Which isn't a bad thing, I'm not complaining.
Instead of adopting it each year, maybe you can simply say this is the time to call attention to the fact that we've adopted this as.
Right.
Just make it.
Reaffirm.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
Well, PSBA recommends when there's new board members to redo the vote.
right.
So
Well,
it's not every year, it's every
2 years,
2 years.
Or when someone's appointed.
Or when somebody's appointed.
right. Well, it's not a bad idea to have to keep rereading this, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right, so did you change that part about the code versus the principal? Great, okay. Yeah. All right, good. Second reading, yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
All right, now I'm up to, okay, so 702, right? Yep.
And that's right, 004.
00, yes, local board procedure 004 is ready for second reading and adoption.
Did we talk about this one last time, or did we not get to it?
I think we brought it back.
Yeah, we did not get to, it was the one last on the list,
Yeah.
and we didn't get to talk about it. It was,
Because I have a bunch of old comments.
yeah, we literally, we weren't able to discuss it last time because we were so chatty. I know.
I think there are changes to this?
We just never got to it.
Right, but there's nothing, it's just for discussion,
Right.
the right changes.
Right.
Well,
There
there
are no changes yet.
should be one correction at least. So under additional requirements, we have the sentence that's repeated. Right? The first sentence
Right.
is duplicated.
Yeah.
Well, one's for commemorative gifts, one's for commemorative.
That can just be, you can just do that without.
They're not the same thing.
Gifts, funds.
These are the same sentence.
Oh, I'm in a different place. Okay, there's other additional requirements. Okay.
Right, sorry,
Yeah.
correct,
Right, yeah.
yeah.
I just wanted to.
Under
Wait a minute.
additional requirements for accepting technology.
I missed that one.
We jumped to 702.
It's literally the same sentence.
Keep up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trying to do a few things. 702. The free action arrangements with other gifts.
All right, so I have 2 comments, should I?
Yeah.
So under additional requirements for commemorative gifts, which is below the other additional requirements.
Yes,
In bullets, okay, sorry, commemorative funds number 5, and commemorative gifts number 8.
okay.
Which are
It's just
separate.
independent of instructional time or,
It's a confusing mix of ands and ors, and I feel like there has to be a better way to say it.
they're not the same sentence, it's just kind of funny. The one is the school slash.
Yeah. So the requirements for commemorative gifts must exist independently of instructional time, school/district resources, and public funds. Like, I think this is just a list of 3
Right,
Oxford towns separated that.
yeah.
Yes.
Right?
There you go.
Is that everyone good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone here, there's something about moral turpitude?
Sorry, we're replacing a word.
Okay, yeah, so take out the comma.
Yeah.
And then I would take out the word school there and just have district resources.
Yeah.
School resources
also.
It's under name.
And then comma after resources.
It's under naming rights?
The second paragraph of the name.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So my comment on that was, is that the only reason naming rights can be revoked outside the agreement? What about like violation of board policy, or would all that just go into the agreement?
Yep, and then I would do and/.
Right, as it's written, moral turpitude appears to be the only
And the guys.
reason here we're allowed to revoke it.
To number. So, maybe something to school.
What you can do is, in your regulation, I'm not sure where it's not. The regulation can talk about all the criteria and all the things you want to make sure get included in every agreement.
Yeah.
I don't know that you want that in board policy.
I think it would have to be in the agreement anyway, because the other party has to sign off on it.
But as a matter of policy, you'll say we won't enter into an agreement.
Yeah.
As that.
Right, and then,
Now, that A through E can just be, okay, this is what the agreement, this is what it is, this is what all contracts should have now. If somebody's gonna give you, because they use any sort of examples, but if somebody's gonna give you like $5 million and you want it, but there's just one quirky thing.
just one? Yeah.
I don't know, you may, I guess you could always make exceptions, even if there was an administrative regulation, so that really wouldn't matter. You just want the administration to list a bunch of things so that everybody knows not to do a contract that doesn't have all those things in it.
Okay, so then I stand by my statement that this paragraph is narrower than it should be. It's also, it's called broad and narrower. So we can't unilaterally have this statement. We can't discontinue recognition. If we sign a contract with somebody about recognition, and then that individual group engages in an act of moral turpitude, can we unilaterally?
No, that's why.
So this has no key.
Any agreement, no, this should say, any agreement for naming rights shall contain a clause
Yes.
allowing the board to reserve the right.
And then I would add to that, not just moral turpitude, but violation of board policy.
One thing what Ken was saying though is that we would have an agreement policy that would state all those.
This is the agreement policy. This is naming rights. Right? And then this is,
Well, in the AR, I guess, is what
I was making.
maybe it's in the AR.
Right, put that in the AR, Eldon.
Is there an AR?
There it is.
So yeah, so let's put that in. So let's pull this paragraph and put that bit in the AR. I think
And then perhaps in the third paragraph, the board shall require the donor of shall require the donor to execute every document saying services. Well, these are different, I don't know about different naming rights, we don't give naming rights out for services. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that shouldn't.
The first paragraph, the board may grant to blah, 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 defined period of time pursuant to a written statement which establishes specific requirements and continued period of time as set forth in the accompanying regulation. That thing about services is this should be a separate paragraph, should be donation of services.
Yeah, I mean, I can.
All right, under policy, first section under policy, acceptance of gift.
Okay, well, I'll make this change.
Yeah.
Down a little bit further. For the first, the fifth paragraph says the board of school director shall make every effort. It says it reserves the right to use it in the best interest of the educational program of the district. I think that's too specific. It should just be in the best interest of the district.
Okay, where are you?
Under.
Policy.
Policy, acceptance of gift, fifth paragraph.
Yeah, right after definition.
Before me.
Best interest of the district, that's fine.
Is that all? No?
Yep.
Okay,
Rob got that one.
all right, now we got the other one. Arthur?
You have my exists. Should we quickly look at the AR, because actually, all that stuff that was mentioned in terms of like moral turpitude is not even in the AR. I'm not sure, we can do that later.
Well, we're gonna bring it back anytime because this is just for first reading for 702.
All right,
So we'll have, Ken's gonna put that in
Yep.
there and then we'll review it when that gets put in there next time.
sounds good.
So yeah, so we'll just make sure that AR 702 is on the agenda for
Next
the
policy
next policy meeting. Yep.
I say I love the word turpitude, I've been trying to use it in a sentence.
I know, that's such a great word.
Are you coming to education committee tonight? If you can use it 3 times in a sentence.
3 times? Oh my God.
It's in context.
Can you go through Steve's presentation on sleep
Okay.
times, on start times? That'd be awesome.
3 times?
I know.
If you use it 3 times, it's gonna be a
Oh
short
my
meeting,
God.
so
I know.
that'll be a surprise.
That'll be a-
I can say what's-
Steve will bring you a
I
gift.
don't know if I can do it. All right.
Yeah, as long as it's not a violation, it's yours.
All right,
All right, that was 702, so we'll see 702 back.
Mm.
Well, we can do a first reading on the
Oh,
24th.
First reading on which?
On 702, or no, not yet?
yeah, we're not quite there yet.
Just bring it back.
should we skip over 359 since we're bringing? it
Yeah,
back?
exactly, so
Yep.
359 is, I have that starred with the other ones at
Yep.
this point. Okay, so that goes to 915, which was, it's been on the docket for a really long time, but we haven't seen it.
This is pretty.
And Steve has to leave in 10 minutes. and I-
Sweet,
I
how
cannot
fast can it
imagine.
Is this the booster
This
policy?
is the booster
This
policy.
is the booster policy.
This is
Yes.
either
That
boosters.
would be, we're not gonna do this.
No, so why don't we move it to the next meeting?
Okay,
Because there's quite a bit to go through.
yeah,
I worked with Eric on Friday through it, I mean, there's a lot, so.
okay.
Yeah.
So is the next meeting the SGA or is the next
The
meeting?
11th is the next meeting, but that's an in-service day,
So we'll have to
and
find
there's students, so we
So we'll have to find
have
another.
to find another date. The 18th is the SGA.
Yes, so that's what we're talking about, when we did the co-meeting with the SGA last year, they liked it, which is great.
Yeah.
And so, which is such a wonderful thing. And then, of course, we had students attending multiple policy meetings then. So we are doing another joint SGA policy committee meeting on the 18th of March. So that will be, again, at the high school. in
We also have a regular.
Yeah, that's my question. Is there a regular one too?
I sent an invitation out.
Yeah,
For
I
the 18th.
responded, yeah. But are we having a regular policy?
Make sure you're on it.
too?
But that's the 11th, which is an in-service day, and also,
So we can have a regular,
Right, we can have a.
regular
So,
policy
11th?
meeting. It would be the week before, it'll be the 11th,
Right.
right?
maybe
It just-
Saturday.
If that's
I have it
okay.
on
The only thing with,
Right.
because we're down an administrator, I don't
Alright.
know, like, I mean, I can always put my notes in the policy
Yeah,
and meet with you ahead of time.
okay. If you're okay with that,
Yeah.
okay.
2 policy meetings in a month, it doesn't get any better than that.
I mean, I know, right?
1 month?
We're doing what we can.
And it's like an early birthday present.
I mean, yeah, and if you can recall, policy meetings usually only were an hour and a half. We extended it to 2 hours,
Because
like
it's so much fun.
3 months into this, so yeah. so.
When Mr. Soraya joins. Just joking.
When both of you were here, we
I think it was like by August
I was
15th, we hit like 2-hour meetings.
Just send it Friday.
After the first meeting, we realized an hour and a half was not enough.
No, I know, it literally, just like it was.
Okay. So we're having the 11th also.
If you guys want to do the 11th.
Yeah, so if we can-
Your kids
We
will
should
be
get
home.
back.
Our kids will be home.
You want to do the 12th? You don't want to?
I don't
the next day?
I mean, it's fine with me,
It
but.
doesn't matter.
The 12th? It's up to you.
No.
What was the date that
No.
that he's not?
Let's just
Today's
do
the
that.
day.
Maybe.
Yeah, I would say stay with the 11th, and then we have our special meeting the 18th, so.
Wow, that's
All
exciting.
right.
It is exciting, and we sat down and we talked about it, and Dr. Yanni gave us some suggested policies for the
We're gonna
kids.
do student study homework and one other
180 and 123 and 130.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's good.
so there are policies that kids can
I know. It's a very proud moment when students actually enjoy your policy
You
committee.
really ambitious, you should like do student dress, student,
Oh, we did that one, yeah.
Dress code, I know.
what was the other, student government.
Well, we did that, we did all that,
Oh, that you
we did
did that.
those, we did those last year.
Somebody else, just another district, just it meets with students and they use that.
Yes.
Student dress and students free expression.
Free expression, yes,
There you
so.
go.
Well, they can come in and they can talk about anything that they want.
Because they get other policy.
Yeah. All right, so 9:15 is next week. So we are up to 201, admission of kindergartners and beginners. It's an administrative regulation. New.
Depending on what the government does, things can change again.
Right, I know that there's conversation right now in the Pennsylvania General Assembly about making admissions required at 6 years,
Yeah,
so.
it's 6.
Yeah, some, you could make that six and you would have it. Others change or is this is new?
This is a new,
201.
right, this is a new AR.
You have policies.
Yes, let's look at the policy. For the record too, I would love to see if we could try to get kindergarten registration done online, electronically, instead of having,
We will for next year, it is going to be done online.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, part of our new student information system, Infinite Campus,
Mhm.
all of that stuff will be able to go online.
That's great,
They can submit all the documentation in PDF and
that's great.
The second bullet on this, a private psychological evaluation obtained at the expense of the parent. Is that under school, like, where did that come?
State Board of Education regulation.
Okay, so it's required.
If you're gonna let them in before they're 6, yeah. It's 11, one of these 11s, 11, 14, 15, or 16.
What happened if they didn't live in the district? I mean, we have a deadline of April 30th. What if they moved in, you know, or, well, yeah, May 1st, yeah.
Well, some districts have they have like, if you're coming from if you're coming from a full-day kindergarten, or if you're coming from a private school.
Right.
Not for specifically for early admission. We do have that, for like students, I don't remember what policy it was.
They move
If they move in, you know, in 7th grade or whatever.
Is that new, Ken, because I'm looking at the 201 that we have currently in place, and it doesn't mention a private psychological. And so I mean, it's not something that we have enforced.
Maybe I'm trying to find state code regulations
We just have that they completed a kindergarten program approved by the Pennsylvania Department of Ed, and they have, they have verification of that. We allow them in the first grade.
You're looking at your policy.
Policy
where's
201.
the,
We have placement of students transferring into the school district.
Kindergarten, and then first grade's included in that.
Policy.
Okay.
Right, yeah, the policy, the AR's
Because I
not.
can tell you the scenario that typically this happens is when
Yeah,
the student misses the cutoff. So the birthday
exactly.
is,
Mhm.
after September 15th, and they want them to go into first grade the following year. Then-
Right.
So then they go to a private kindergarten,
Mhm.
we'll accept them at a younger age, and then they come back and go into first grade.
Right,
So that's the loophole, I mean, that's why.
that's right, yes.
But
I'm
we've never required a
going to
second.
stand corrected. It's not state requirement, that was a practice that
Can we keep
districts were
that out?
doing, but.
It's the second one.
So you're
Right.
basically anybody who,
Yeah, as long as they complete an approved,
Right.
Right, and
a
they kind
PD
of,
approved
yeah.
candidate.
they gotta do it by April 30th. How would they know?
That's, yeah, and would we say then, oh, no, you
Yeah.
can't? Like, that would seem to be,
Quite frankly, I have a lot of concerns about this happening anyway.
Okay.
And it does. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's-
I mean, it does, but parents will know because the parents that this applies to will have done research on it.
Yes. they
Would have
call-
done their homework. I got it.
They call her early on.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
In fact, I've already gotten emails from parents this year saying they're not going to meet the kindergarten cutoff, so they're going to do kindergarten private.
And then they come back.
Yeah, and they're fine.
All right, so,
Yeah.
so,
That too was on the-
do you still, okay, you have a provision in your policy that says students who will reach the age of 6 between September 15th and November 30th may be considered for early admission to first grade. Is that your practice?
Where are you at, I'm sorry.
Policy.
Policy.
Policy, the current policy?
Correct.
Okay, students who reach the age of 6 for admission to first grade. Right, September 15th is our cutoff.
Okay, so my birthday is, I come to you, my birthday is October, his birthday is October 1st, I come to you and say, I want to be considered for early admission to first grade.
And you had to have it in kindergarten, and that's regardless of
I
whether they
have
get
not had
kindergarten.
it because of.
That's regardless of
So
kindergarten.
they may be
If I
considered,
had one.
but there's no, how,
What are your criteria?
Right.
criteria to make the decision.
So do we
Well,
actually do
That's
that?
what this regulation.
Right, so the regulation is
Different.
saying we will do it if they have,
The
Done.
private psychological, it's an either or.
Or.
It's either you've completed kindergarten or you've given us the private psychological report driven by testing to blah, 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 blah.
yeah, that needs to be an or in there instead of an and.
So,
It's an and right now, and that should be an or instead of an and.
that should be it.
Can- Or can we just remove the second part?
But then you don't have any criteria in place for the person who comes to you between the age, who turns 6 between September 15th and November 30th. So if you're going to consider kids between September 30th and November 30th, as your policy correctly says,
Right,
you need
Or
some
are we not?
criteria.
right. Or is the question, are we not? Are we requiring, if they're gonna be early admitted into first grade, that they have to have completed kindergarten?
There's nothing wrong with taking out that sentence out of the policy. You can absolutely legally do that, and then you can take out that whole living your radar.
Right.
Can't come in early unless we pretend to do early kindergarten. That doesn't seem unreasonable.
I mean, right now, and so that's the question. Currently, do we have kids coming in here for early admission to first grade that haven't done
I've never
kindergarten?
done any kindergarten.
Maybe they come from
That
another
haven't
country.
done that, right?
Because what you're saying here is kindergarten is not a prerequisite to start first grade.
Right, that's
So
what the
someone
policy
comes in-
currently says. yeah.
Someone comes in and enrolls to be a first grader, and their birthday's after September 15th, which is fine,
Right.
then they would be a first grader.
But you can only come in early if you.
I would be
Right.
4 for September 15th.
Mhm.
Oh, I see.
Should say, no, you have to be in, you have to be in kindergarten, you can't be in first.
If you're
They
not,
have to go to kindergarten, that's how we would do
if
it.
you're not letting kids in, you haven't completed kindergarten, you're not letting them in early. If they haven't completed kindergarten, then you need to take the slide out of the policy, and then you can take the bullet out of the right.
Right,
Makes perfect sense.
Right. unless
So
we're.
Who are we hurting if we do that?
We're hurting somebody who will come in and say, I homeschooled my kid for kindergarten, and they're ready for first grade, and I can prove it to you because I did you a private report that says so. Or you're hurting somebody, you're affecting somebody who comes and says, I can complete a kindergarten program. PD doesn't approve it because PD is a bunch of jerks, they withdrew their approval like at the last minute before I enrolled to school, I still sent my kid there. That's who was affected by this.
So we give them that out by saying, all right, well, then you can pay for a report that says your kid's fine.
Well, where did the November 30th come from? What?
Is that actually
September
meaningful?
15th or-
Like, you can always find somebody to send out.
Right, that's what I'm saying, like, then you pay for a report that say
It's
that.
just a lot of money for someone to get
I mean,
reports, I
right.
think, that's.
True, it doesn't.
But in that case, at the end of the AR, we have the clause that says ultimately the superintendent can approve or disapprove the request. Isn't there still kind of that proviso?
But you're not, that's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me, what I'm hearing, maybe I'm wrong, is you want to nip this thing in the bud.
Mhm.
We're fine letting the kids in with kindergarten, we don't want these kids coming in on these reports. So, easily done.
Just strike
Take
that.
that sentence out of the policy,
Yep.
Mhm.
then you can take it out of the AR.
Yep, all right.
Right.
That's what I'm good with that.
Okay. So I think the April 30th date is kind of one of those things where,
I think that's just to give us a hint. It sounds to me like that's to give us enough time for another.
Yeah, I don't know that we would deny it.
right, I don't know if it's
It's-
enforceable. That's what I'm saying, are we really going to enforce that
Right.
date? It's
Like,
as
if
early
someone
as
comes to me
possible.
on,
Right,
You know, May 15th, I'm not gonna say, well, you missed,
right.
you know,
Right,
I think it's a guideline.
right. So that's why I would say, I would put something in there that we're requesting them to do it as soon as possible, by, you know, if possible by, before April 30th.
Or we should just put in the regulation waivers.
So what are you taking out of the policy?
Just that one sentence.
So we're taking out the,
September.
Yeah.
Which is no child
Between
abuse.
September and November. I don't know where that.
I'm sorry, you already taken it out?
I don't know where that
Oh, you're-
number came from.
We don't have the-
November.
This is,
we were looking at the policy, yeah, I think we pulled the policy up, but yeah.
we pulled the policy up,
That's, you want that on first reading? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be 7 or,
so we can bring that.
yeah, we can bring it to a 1 for first reading.
Okay.
Okay, take care of it.
And then you want
Something
something
this September.
early district regulations, superintendent can waive it.
We wanted to. Oh, yeah, why not?
Right, so
No rush.
Yeah, Russia.
we're allowing kids who've done kindergarten.
When do kids normally register for first grade if they're coming in from an district kindergarten?
From out of district, I mean, we have registration open all the time, so they just come in whenever
It's
they.
April 30th, that's just not a, that
We
date
have
is
people
just
that come the
not
day
there.
before school starts.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
They should have date be changed to make it more realistic or.
Yeah.
That's why I-
All the time?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the April, that really doesn't mean anything.
I mean, that's why I think it's encouraging parents. I mean, I think maybe it said it's encouraging families to let us know. I mean, I think you say that, you don't give a hard and
I mean, that's when
fast
we're determining class sizes and all
Right.
that, so that's probably why that was
date.
chosen.
So I think we encourage families to, you know,
To be
tell,
encouraged.
We
But
have the
district
word-
by April
We have the
30th.
word shall.
right, I don't
Should.
think we can do that. I don't think no later than,
Be encouraged, right, 'cause
I
you
don't, right.
Should.
Yeah, I think that it's
Well, where
a,
it's not like the outcome would be
This is, if
different.
we do all this, is April 30th the date you want to encourage them by? I mean, it sounds like you pulled that date out of the air.
or by the end of the preceding school year.
Well, for class sizes and things, Tom, we start that conversation I know now, but what would be, is April sufficient as we start to
I
determine
would say yes,
staffing?
only because we continue to monitor attendance into the summer
Right, but
because of the
April's
reason that
okay.
you were describing with
It's
late
not gonna be very
registrations
much
anyway.
kids.
But April.
Yeah, we're not gonna
I
have,
mean, you talk, I guess the
10
question
kids come in.
is, I'm not saying it's wrong. Okay, when do people tend, you gonna get 80% of people by April 30th, 90% you typically? by April
currently, yeah,
30th?
what's the current, when are people currently
95% by
telling
April
us?
30th, 8% by April 30th, you wanna do it by the time you normally get around 90% of them already.
Yeah,
Is that April 30th, or is
April
that?
30th is fine.
because, I mean, we're
Like-
currently getting how many kids, 1 or 2 that are falling in this category per year?
Right, it's very.
Right, so 90% would be all of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, when are we
Kids
currently,
matriculating from kindergarten to
Right,
first,
so-
that represents the most of the kids.
Yeah, how many
So
of
now we're
them?
just talking about how many kids move in, or how many kids are in a private kindergarten where they're now coming in.
yeah,
It's like it's
and,
only a
and
handful of years.
Our bigger
Yeah,
problem is no
it's-
kindergarten.
it's 1 or 2 a year that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we can encourage them to do it,
Got it.
yeah, by the end of April, and it's not really gonna matter, but if they can let us know. Great.
I'm sure they'll be reading the policy.
But seriously, when we were looking at school districts, because of my son's birthday, I looked at all the policies of the surrounding school districts about what their cutoff dates were, so.
We
I
have
am
two this
part
year,
of
we had two this year that were students, they registered and their birthday was September 15th.
Yeah, mine's son's the 13th, and so it was one of those things, most of the cutoffs around the surrounding areas is September 1st.
And ours isn't long before, it's,
Yeah, mine's,
Or-
mine's
they had to wait till
17th.
here.
Yep.
We held them back.
September 1st, the message is
You have to pick a date
first.
Yeah.
Is it September
Well,
1st?
because that's the date.
You just pick a
State board regulations say, I don't know where.
Where do we get 15? Maybe we should get
I
first.
don't know.
Well, I remember that.
I remember
Many
that
years ago, we
conversation
changed
about it, but I
that.
don't remember
Oh,
why.
really?
Just historic reason.
Right, so,
Probably somebody's, who were there at the time of the kid, it was
Right.
West.
and honestly, the thing is, I don't don't think it's such a negative because, I mean, it was a pro for us to move to Upper Dublin. So, I don't know. Does it really matter those 2 weeks?
You keep it at 15?
For our life,
Yeah,
like.
it's gotta go somewhere.
Yeah, I mean.
But that's what I mean, I don't
We always
mind
do
having the
it
cutoff
correctly.
being a little bit different than some of the other school districts.
At least if it's September
Because it makes us a
15th,
little more
they can
attractive.
go on September 16th, you can say.
You get those 2 extra weeks.
Normally it's September 1st.
Right. Not us.
Most districts are not more of a problem.
Yeah.
They're not talking people registered.
Right.
Mhm.
No, that's
Richard.
absolutely. All right. So policy 201, we're gonna do the first read of that, that's the first read, and then we'll bring back the AR because it's an AR anyway. So, all right. All right, we'll keep talking. So policy 334, sick leave. Just chatting.
I recuse my earlier statement.
Yeah.
Mainly because of that kindergarten conversation.
Oh,
Once you read the kindergarten,
Yeah.
then it's over.
Yeah, these aren't.
It's
So like 2 days that you do it?
2 3 now.
334.
Yeah, 334, sick leave.
Oh, God.
It's the same in maybe, may not be presumed conclusively
And
established.
another one.
Yeah, so how does one, how is
Two,
a
three, and then-
disability conclusively established? Like if you want to get,
Yeah, because if somebody comes and says, I got a doctor's note, therefore I'm disabled, we say, well, we will consider that. That's not necessarily.
But
Just
if-
because your physician says you're
But if you're still running marathons, you said you can't, yeah.
so like, how does one get a handicap placard for your car? Like,
That's handicap, that's different.
Yeah,
I mean,
but there, sure, but there's still a certification process that's beyond the doctor's note, right?
Yeah.
We're not being overly,
Oh, no, there's no such processing. The process that exists for determining a disability in public schools is something called an interactive ADA conference with the employee. That's the process, but there's no black and white.
okay.
What may be a disability in one district might not be a disability in another district. Handicap license plates, those are based on mobility impairments, and they're uniform statewide.
Okay. So this says what doesn't constitute a disability, it doesn't say what does, but we can't, because there isn't a hard and fast.
We could put in, we should probably put in something, this is sick leave, I don't know why that's. I guess it's,
Well, because that's one of our types of leave, right? I mean,
well, yeah. I don't actually like that sentence.
you know what?
I think it
I'm-
confuses things.
As I read this, is this really about, so in the contract, there's like 5 different types of leave.
Mhm.
Is this really about just sick leave, or is this about all of those types of leaves?
Primarily, it's about individual sick leave. Sometimes with family sick leave, we're not probably as restricted, but there are times, like around the holiday, where we might say, you have some sort of documentation that can substantiate. It's particularly used on a sick day, when we think it's not being used for an authentic sick.
Okay. If this is just about sick leave, then if you just change that sentence to be like the sentence before, illness or disability, does that make you like it, dislike it less? Ken?
No, it doesn't. Oh, yeah. Yes. No, this is, I would just say,
Right.
use of, establish an employee's proper use of sick leave.
Yeah,
Oh, that seems better.
that's good.
You could get a position to register that you were sick when you were really out skiing.
Yeah, doctor prescribed exercise.
Well, no, the doctor was relied on your doctor.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the secret.
Okay. Is there anything else in here?
Just the end of we carve out, make the carve outs for collective bargaining agreements.
Yeah. All right. Am I team? Are we good?
Good, yeah.
So this will be a first reading for the policy. And our next is Sally's.
Are we required by law to post the FMLA procedures? Or is that just us saying
Required by law.
Yeah.
I don't think you need that. Well, I think you should say the superintendent shall develop and disseminate to implement FMLAs for public, including requirements for posting.
that? Okay.
Right here.
Posting information about FMLA leads. Maybe not really make sense.
Yeah, filing a complaint.
Well, that should go to the AR.
So take out the next paragraph, this one?
Yeah.
Then would you want the CBA language in this policy as well? Would it be worthwhile?
Well, what?
No, it's in there.
It is.
Yeah. Second paragraph.
All right. Are you guys good with this? We're still looking at more?
Good.
I'm on the AR.
Right, okay. So we're good for first read for 335, and so now we're looking at the AR.
Well, I do have a question about the AR. There's new language about whether an employee has worked sufficient number of days to qualify for a step. It's under benefits during leave, like halfway down.
Which,
It's
Benefits during leave?
So halfway through the policy, just above special
No,
conditions.
special policy.
Be back in.
I'm sorry, the AR, sorry.
Yeah, in the AR, so it's under, yeah, about midway through, benefits during leave.
There may be circumstances where, so my question is this current practice or is this new? Okay.
Yes.
And is similar language in the contract?
Similar language.
In the contract?
It just refers to, the minimum expectation for being eligible for FMLA, and then refers to policy.
No, I mean for step though, to qualify for step. Is that,
Step minimum.
For staff to,
no, for step, to get a step?
that movement in the teacher contract.
Does the teacher contract say that you must work a certain number of days to qualify for a step?
yes, more than half,
Okay.
Okay.
94,
So
95
this
days.
is
So this is-
plus.
89 days.
Okay.
Plus or current. Okay.
That was it.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so that, I'm writing down that we reviewed it and we okayed it, but obviously we're not gonna go forward with it because we're looking just at first reading for the policy. Okay. All right. We got two more. We got 15 minutes. All right, 610, purchases subject to bid. And the AR.
My brother's been sitting here all meeting.
No, actually, there were several others. This is, This is primarily an update.
This is just the numbers.
Yeah, it's just the changing of the numbers. This is very prescriptive.
Right,
Fine, fine. Yeah.
yes, I'm good, increasing the numbers.
Yes, it's 25.
Okay, yeah,
That's
625.3, all right, I know. You're motivated because you.
No.
You forget
No,
that.
I did rescind it.
I know.
Yes, no bonuses. But this is also just changing the numbers.
Yes.
Can I just add that, to add the cross references as well, so we cite AR 610 and all the other school code stuff that's there on the hyperlinks, for the same things before.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bunch of them.
All right. Anything else? Anything else from anyone? All right. Since we have no members of the community input is rather short. We will have, and as we discussed, our next policy committee meeting here is March 11th. And then we will also have a special policy committee meeting at the high school with some of our high school students following it on March 18th.
Can I say that for the high school one as well, the equity and excellence groups are going to possibly contribute as well. We've already talked to Dr.
Oh, that's great.
about that.
That's excellent, yeah, and I don't want to just narrow it to SGA.
Yep.
It's just a matter of who's usually interested in these kind of things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, so yes, I mean, it's open to all of our students, so. All right, okay, with that, we are adjourned, thank you.